What's up? I'm Dan Random, and I've been dealing with some low heat and no heat issues in cars. Now, I thought my car was okay until I fixed the low heat issue in the same identical car that my girlfriend happens to have, and now that I see how good her heat works, I know that my heat isn't working to its full potential. My brother also has a no heat issue, but that's something different. My brother's issue is a actuator, so he's actually not getting heat through the blend door through the HVAC system. So what I'm going to do here today on my car, though, is I'm going to flush the heater core like I did to the other Civic. So if your Civic or if your car is stock, you'll have to remove the stock airbox potentially, and anything else that's in the way to getting to the hoses that lead to the heater core on the firewall. So you see these two hoses, one on top of the other here? So that's the heater core hose, which leads to the heater core. You have an in and an out. And you can see here, this little device opens and closes to let the flow of hot antifreeze through your heater core to give you heat. So basically what's wrong is I must have some gunk in my heater core that is not allowing the transfer of heat from the metal to air in my cabin, at least not efficiently. So I'm gonna flush out my heater core and make that much better. So now that I removed the intake, you can see the heater core hoses much better here. Now I'm gonna take the other ends off, down back here and up here. So I will be using a screwdriver to loosen my hose clamps. I have really long screwdrivers here. If you have the clamp style hose clamps, I suggest using something long like this to get down to one that's buried like that. But luckily I can just use a screwdriver. So I'm going to take this off and that off down there. So I have some of the antifreeze draining into a pan right now. If your antifreeze is old anyway, I would suggest trying to drain all of it out and just replace all of it when you're doing this. And maybe even use the tool that I'm about to use here on the end of a garden hose to flush other parts of the system. So this thing here has a little Schrader valve like a tire, so if the garden hose pressure doesn't blow your heater core out, then you can take a little air chuck and just tap it to this quickly and it will add pressure to, well, either blow out your clog or I guess pop your heater core. Okay, so I now have that tool hooked to my garden hose and I shoved it in this little hose here, and I am looking for clear water to shoot out of the end of the other disconnected hose. So now I'm just going to turn this on, and there you have it, hose pressure. I'll just let that run, I don't know, just for a little bit, and your heater core will be totally flushed. Oh, and by the way, if you're going to do it from a hose that goes through the valve that gives you heat, you need to make sure that your heat is turned all the way up inside the car, and that, well, in this car, for example, having the cable sticking all the way out, as you can see here, that is open, so the heat is fully on right now. And I guess I should note that if this doesn't work, you could always pop that little wire control thingy off there and just switch it which way you want. If you need heat, just send it open. If you don't, close it. Now that the hoses are reconnected, hose clamps are tight, I have to add antifreeze. So you just want to make sure that your system is completely full, no air bubbles, and then it's time to test to see how fast you get heat. So as you can see, my engine's cold and my antifreeze is not actually fully topped off. I mean, it seemed like it was, but I know there's air in the system still, so I have to let it run for a bit. Maybe I might even have to let the thermostat open to know that I have all the air out and that the system is completely full. So I do have the heat on, and let's see if I feel anything. Not yet. I might have to add a little more antifreeze. So it'd be nice to have one of those things that you can fill up with antifreeze to let it bleed out, but I don't have one handy. So I'm just gonna have to let the thermostat open, and at that time, I'm not sure if I'll have heat yet or not because my heater core will be empty. So I guess I'll have to let the car cool, and then I'll have to start it up cold to see how fast I get heat. All right, so the system is fully bled. I have some heat in the car. Sorry, I'm trying to keep the sun out of my eyes here. So now that I have heat, I'm gonna shut the car off. Oh, one thing I should mention is that I filled the overflow a little bit more than usual just because that will get the rest of the bubbles out automatically, because any of the air bubbles will be pushed into the reservoir tank and only liquid will be sucked out. So if you think that your system is almost bled, but you want to be sure, just top off your reservoir a little bit extra and you should be fine. So, all right, yep, got nice, really hot heat actually. I feel like the heat is hotter than it used to be, but the car has been running for a while now, so I'm gonna shut the car off and let it cool down, and then I'm gonna see how quick I get heat from the engine being completely cold. Okay, it is the next morning, and you can see there's a little bit of frost, light frost on the windshield and windows. So it's kind of cold out. I think it's about 40 degrees. So I'm gonna start the car up. And I'm gonna see how long it takes. It's 7:44. I'm gonna see how long it takes for the vent to provide a little bit of heat. All right, so it's been about 3 minutes and almost 4 minutes now, I guess, and I can feel heat coming out of here. It's not hot, but it's pretty warm. So that's a lot quicker than it used to be. It used to take more like, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes maybe to get heat. I would have to actually go back in the house most times and then come back out, 3 or 4 minutes later and turn up the fan to get the car to defrost and get warm. So if you have a low or no heat issue, start looking into some of these things here and definitely flush your heater core.